Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the next video in this series. This is, if it's under 1.7, and it's reading aloud at native speed. Here in Hiroshima, finally the sun has broken through, so the video should be a little bit brighter. It's mid-March now, coming toward the end of March actually, and the cherry blossom is starting to bloom. The last few videos we've had heavy rain, so it's been a little bit dark when I recorded at home and when I recorded here. So this video, reading aloud at native speed. This is, how can I say, this is old school. This is what I did when I started learning how to interpret 20 years ago. And basically, why do we do reading aloud at native speed? The original idea, the original theory, I can't say if there's any academic evidence to prove this theory, but the original idea was that if you can read aloud at the same speed as a native speaker, you should not have any difficulty listening to native speed. You may have found the animation videos, shadowing the animation videos, a little bit fast. One reason for this is in the university classroom, the teacher is stood behind the lectern, and that's teacher, if they're speaking in English or in Japanese, we tend to speak slower. We tend to speak slow when we're talking to an audience, to a classroom. So there's a risk that as students you become accustomed to what I would say about 70% the natural speed of Japanese. Now, what we're going to do here, you're going to be practicing reading aloud. So what I recommend you do to help you to do this, on the pointing one on this one here, if you scroll down here to the core vocabulary, put your finger on control and click, and you see a window. A window should open at the top of your screen, with the core vocabulary, and then also scroll down here to 1.7. When you're looking at this, there should be a video on 1.6. I'm going to record that later. I need to put my glasses on. Okay, so it says presenter a script. So put your finger on control and open a window there. So after doing this, you should have two additional windows open. One, presenter A script, presenter B script, and presenter C script. And the second one, you've got the vocabulary here. Hopefully you've remembered the vocabulary on this list, but I recommend keeping this open just to check when you're going through this if there's any vocabulary you're not that familiar with. Okay, so here is the script. Now I have a second window open, and it's right above me here. And what I did is I clicked on the YouTube link here, and I opened the students, my students presentation, presenter A here. Something, if you, I've put the scripts on the website, but I've also put the scripts on YouTube as well. So if you want to check out the scripts are there, maybe copy them from here, put them in a place that's easier for you to read or follow. So how are we going to do this? What I recommend you do, you're going to have to read aloud at native speed. And reading aloud at native speed, something that's very important is making sure you get the pauses in the right place. So pauses, emphasis, make sure that you try to replicate the way that a native Japanese speaker will actually do this presentation. Okay, so the first thing I recommend you do is to just play it. And so while I'm playing it, I'm going to be following along. Let's just go through paragraph number 1 and paragraph number 2 on the left, and see how long she takes to read it.
これから江戸時代から現代までの日本の通訳の歴史についてお話しします。日本では江戸時代の初期には鎖国の体制をとっていました。当時の記録によると、長崎でのオランダとの貿易交渉で通訳をしていた人がいたそうです。この通訳者たちは通詞と呼ばれ、オランダ語の知識は子孫が代々継承していました。
Okay, so if we stop there, it says 32 seconds. So basically, we have to aim to read this aloud in 32 seconds. So let's zoom back to the beginning. Now, the first thing I recommend you do is to play and try to read over at the same time as she's actually reading it. There'll probably be a slight difference between your reading speed and her reading speed, but try to get close to her reading speed. Let me just give you a quick example.
これから江戸時代から現代までの日本の通訳の歴史についてお話しします。日本では江戸時代の初期には鎖国の体制をとっていました。当時の記録によると、長崎でのオランダとの貿易交渉で通訳をしていた人がいたそうです。この通訳者たちは通詞と呼ばれ、オランダ語の知識は子孫が代々継承していました。
Okay, so you'll see I wasn't reading at exactly the same speed as her. I was probably like a second or 2 seconds behind. So we know the basic speed that we have to read it at now. And I'll leave this one up here. So once we've got an idea of that, what I tend to do with my students, I get them to read English aloud at native speed. That's their challenge. For English speakers, then I set the speed at like 160 words per minute. Is what we read aloud at. But it's very, very difficult to actually judge Japanese at the same kind of, use the same kind of words or characters to assess the speed. This is why if you want to practice this kind of activity to read aloud at native speed, I recommend get a native to read something and then practice it after. Now what I say to my students is give yourself like 5% either way. So if someone reads something in 1 minute, well, as it is here in 2 minutes, then if it's 2 minutes long, then plus 5% is, what would it be, 2 minutes and 12 seconds? 2 minutes and 6, 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 12 seconds, no, 2 minutes and 6 seconds, oh dear, 2 minutes and 6 seconds, so you've got plus 5% on either side, so 1 minute 54 to 2 minutes 6 seconds is your challenge. Okay, so if I read the Japanese now, you probably realize that I have quite bad eyesight, so I need to actually zoom it up a little bit bigger. Excuse me for this. Okay, now that I can pretty much see it. I don't have a clock on, but I suspect, at least I hope, it'll be about 30 seconds. 3, 2, 1. これから江戸時代から現代までの日本の通訳の歴史についてお話しします。ポーズ。日本では江戸時代の初期には鎖国の体制をとっていました。当時の記録によると、長崎でのオランダとの貿易交渉で通訳をしていた人がいたそうです。この通訳たちは通詞と呼ばれ、オランダ語の知識は子孫が代々継承していました。Okay, probably wasn't exactly on 30 seconds, maybe a little over, maybe a little under. But something you should notice here is, okay, I'm reading this for the first time. I made errors when I'm reading it. Back when I was first beginning to study Japanese, when I was when I was trying to go from level 2 to level 1 Japanese, one of the things I did is I would get a newspaper article I'd get a Japanese friend to read that newspaper article, and I'd time that Japanese friend, see how long it would take them to read it. And I would basically spend all morning, maybe 10, 20 times, I would practice reading it aloud until I could read it close to their speed. Something I learned from doing this is, when you're reading aloud, be careful not to raise your voice too much. When you raise your voice too much, you're going to damage your throat quite easily when you're doing this kind of activity. So keep your voice as soft as possible and try to hit the natural speed that the Japanese speaker would for this. Okay. Usually the first 3, 4, 5 times I'll make a number of errors when I'm doing it, but then slowly those errors disappear, and when I get warmed up, I feel quite comfortable reading it at the same speed as a native speaker. Okay, so that's your challenge. Good luck with that, and I'll see you. We'll be using these materials again in the next video.